And in the spirit of this middle part of the day, just taking a moment to sit with that for a moment. Um, yeah, I feel that we're all in the right headspace for the second part of the session now. Thank you so much to Christopher. And to remind you that this part of the day is about thinking about our capacity to influence the change that we all want to see. And what we're going to do now is think about if we want to do that, what do we need to do? How do we pay attention to our priorities and our own needs? And I'm delighted to have Sarah Fox with us to lead us through this next part. Sarah has helped hundreds of busy, principled professionals to do just right. Sarah helps people get clear on what matters to them and turn it into something meaningful for themselves and the world. She works with socially minded teachers, founders, freelancers, and organizations. And what she does is help them clarify their vision and lead with impact so that they and the people around them can thrive. Now, I've known Sarah for many years, and nobody knows better than Sarah how to do good and do well. You might have come across Sarah with her brilliant podcast, and if you haven't heard that yet, I do recommend that you go look into it. It's in the links, the conference pack. Sarah says, I've heard her say that great things happen when purpose has a plan, which I think is an amazing phrase, Sarah. I think it sums up everything that we're trying to do. And you are here with purpose this afternoon, that's for sure. The purpose is these good people, and yeah, we are ready and poised. So I'm going to hand the floor to you, Sarah, and we're in your capable hands.
Thank you. I don't know about anyone else, but I'm feeling quite emotional after Christopher's workshop. I think that's partly as someone who had a disabled dad, and kind of knowing the impact that that can have, and how widespread that is and how important education is as part of that. I feel very moved. So I feel like I need a little bit of a moment before we move into this. I'm really grateful to be here, and I'm really happy to be able to support you. I'm going to share my screen, hopefully. Um, let's do this and this. So I know that there's a few of you that have already put in the chat sort of who you are, but I'd love to know, because it's sometimes a bit weird when you're sort of speaking out and not not knowing who you're speaking to. I'd love to know first, who are you? And Michelle asked a question. This is going to be a different question. I quickly changed it. But why are you here? And here can mean anything. Here in your work, here in this webinar right now. I'd love to know in the chat, who are you? Why are you here? And can you share one word that you would use to describe your professional life so far? I'm gonna have to turn my fan off. It's blowing all my paperwork everywhere. So let me know in the chat. Let me see if I can see it. So you're here. So we've got Karen, we've got Beck. Hi, Karen. Hi, Beck. Here for inspiration. Your professional life, long in a good way. Believe in education. That's why you're here. Bethan, good afternoon. To learn more about the UK system after training in the USA. Joe from Devon, I love Devon. Want to be the best you can for your trainees and students. There's loads coming in. I'm not going to get through all of these, but it's amazing. Thank you. Um, a misunderstood job hopper. That's how you would describe your professional life. That's brilliant. Sarah is at a crossroads in the career, almost stepped away, but needs an injection of motivation. I really hope, Sarah, that I can offer you some of that today. Jax, artist and art teacher. We've got some trainee teachers. I mean, you're all really, you understand why you're here. One word to describe: busy, chasing hope. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Thank you. I'm going to just share a little bit about myself. Like, who is this random ginger woman who has arrived in your space? I'm going to do that if I can actually move my slide across. Here we go. So for those of you that don't know me, I'm Sarah Fox. My career, I now work for myself. I run my own business, but previously, I have worked in the housing sector. I developed an arts department for a large housing association here in the southeast. I have worked in education. I was an FE teacher for a very short while, 3 years, teaching performing arts. But I decided I didn't want to do that anymore. And for most of my career, I've been in socially engaged community work. So I've worked for small charities looking at essentially arts and kindness, how we can use arts and creativity to build kinder, more caring communities. And I did that for a while. And then I realized that there was just something missing. I felt like there was something else I wanted to do, and I'd reached various parts of my life. My dad had passed away. I was approaching 40. I was like, I feel like I need to do some reflection. So I did that. And now I am a coach. I'm a mentor. I train new coaches. I facilitate groups. I do run workshops like this, but I also facilitate workshops with leaders in organizations. I'm also a tutor and a coach supervisor. So lots of different things. And I coach lots of different people in lots of different roles, and run my own business. My question is always, how do we do good? How do we follow that pull of purpose, in a way that makes a contribution to the world in a really positive way? But how do we do that without breaking ourselves or harming others? So I'm always really curious about that question of how do we do good and do well. I am a mum of two teenagers as well, so I spend a lot of time taking very deep breaths. And just a little fact about me: I live by the sea, and I absolutely adore the sea. I spend a lot of time looking outwards and reflecting. So I've lived by the coast for pretty much most of my life. First in Dorset, and then now in Kent, in Ramsgate. Let's see what else we've got. So. Um, I just wanted to share a little bit about why we're doing this reflection. So, for me, reflection is really important, and it's what I help a lot of people do, to reflect for themselves, about themselves, and what it is that they want. Um, what we want to do is really, or this afternoon, we want to try and reconnect with that purpose. Someone talked about motivation. Like, what is it that motivates us? Why are we here? So reflection is really helpful for that. It also can protect against burnout, which we know is a massive issue in lots of different sectors at the moment. So really taking that time to think about priorities, thinking about the direction you're going, what you want to say no to, what you want to say yes to. Reflection helps to grow agency and leadership. And when we talk about leadership in this workshop, we might be talking about leadership with a capital L, but it's also a little L, whatever that means to you. How can you influence? How can you lead the change that you want to see? Reflection encourages professional growth, and of course, it nourishes that creativity and the hope. Because if there's anything we need right now, it's hope and optimism. Just to say, this is not about adding to your to-do list. We're not going to ask you to come up with loads of things that you have to do by a certain point. It's about reconnecting with what matters to you and allowing that to shape your next steps. So I hope you go away with having had some time to reflect and connect with what matters and have some ideas that go with that. And I ask you in this workshop to, I'm going to ask lots of questions. I'd love you to jot down your responses or sketch or respond in any way you want. And at points, I'd love you to share your learning in the chat, just so that I know that you're here with me. But also, I think it's so important to share our learning on our reflection with others. But also, there's absolutely no need to. If you just want to lie down and relax and chill out and think, then you are welcome to do that as well. I'd love you to be bold in your imagining, though. The realistic stuff can come later. Let's reimagine what this could all look like, and be okay with the I don't knows. There might be questions I ask, you don't know the answer to that right now. That's fine. That can be rich, fertile ground. It might come to you later, but most of all, be kind to yourself. And let's acknowledge that the world we are all trying to navigate is hard and tough. There's a lot of stuff going on. So let's just use this time to really show ourselves some self-compassion and kindness. Okay, so we're going to do the first bit. So everybody ready? You've got your pens and your paper. Let's get going. So this bit is about looking back. I'm just going to move this over here. Looking back at what matters. Question: what has really mattered to you in your work so far? What has really mattered to you in your work so far? No right or wrong answer, just write whatever comes to mind. And the next question: what has been a moment of pride? And I want you to think about something that you did. So we're not talking about pride in others, it's something that you did, even if no one else noticed it. What's been a moment of pride about something you did, even if no one else noticed it? And next question: what has brought you hope? And what does that reveal about what matters to you? What has brought you hope? Might be recently, might be over a span of a career, might be something happening outside of work, but what's bringing you hope? And what does that reveal about what matters to you? Mm. Someone's put in the chat, this conference has brought me hope actually, because I have been given time to step back from the classroom and really reflect and think, refresh my ideas and broaden my thinking. So what does that mean about what matters to you? There's, for me, what comes up, but this might not be right, something about connection, connection with others, being supported. Does that matter? If anyone else has any reflections on your responses, so you can read back what you've written, what do you notice about your responses? So hearing others sharing the same positive thoughts, helping, what matters to you is helping people to see why art matters. I don't know what your first name is, W. Fallon, but you say I'm quite good. I'm going to invite you to get rid of the quite. We don't want any of that modesty in this workshop. It is good. Um, and yeah, Joe says the responses are all about making a difference and having an impact. Yeah. Success is not busyness. Oh, yes. Yeah. Again, that connection that Karen, sorry, seeing that art teachers here are having similar conversations as art teachers in the US is making me feel that I'm not so estranged. Yeah, lovely. What I would be grateful for is if you feel like you've got enough notes here, to just write done in the chat, because what I don't want to do is rush everybody too far ahead. But I can see that you're really like responding and thinking about those responses. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Make sure I'm not going too fast. And if I am, just write in the chat, just tell me to slow down. That's fine. Fabulous. Such lovely stuff already. Okay. So potential, what matters is thinking about potential. Yeah, lovely. Okay, next part. I wanted to share with you a quote from Jacinda Ardern, which I came across recently. And she says, as someone who never expected to see themselves in a position of leadership, I would say that first of all, you never know what you are capable of until you are doing it. So never discount yourself from the possibility of being at the fore of trying to change whatever system or whatever issue is giving you that cause for despair. So I've asked you about hope. I'm now going to ask you about despair. So, what do you despair about in your work, in education, or the world? This might be a long list for some of us. What do you despair about in your work, in education, or the world? Have a think about that and make some notes. While you're thinking about despair, I'm having a lovely time reading the messages. So what despairs Sophie is I hate seeing pupils tracing. I don't understand why it's allowed. It's not scaffolding. It de-skills. Working against the odds imposed by an unfit system. Being missing. Oh, hello. I've got a new mouse. And let's go back to that. Yeah, so lots of things, mental health, subject not being valued, lack of status. Yeah, so this feeling, this noticing what either makes you angry or frustrated or upset, that's really important data. So my next question is, what might that despair be telling you about what matters to you? So, what might that despair be telling you about what matters to you? What are those values that might not be honored in that despair? So, what does it tell you about really what matters to you? Is it about connection? Um, what else have we got? So we've got about disengage. Is it about engagement? Is it about the skill, comfort, happiness, calm, equity of opportunity, access to all parts of oneself is vital. Yeah, absolutely, Adam. I'm with you on that. Yeah, Natalie says that I care about others. Yeah, value, commitment, care, the love of learning. Yeah. So just take a moment to notice that and connect with that. There are moments we feel hope that gives us some data about what matters and what we want to be prioritizing, even if we're in a system that doesn't always allow us to do that. What can we control within that? What can we not control? Um, but just taking that moment to notice, what is this anger, this frustration, this despair? What is it telling me? Okay. By the way, if you're watching this back on replay, feel free to like pause and spend a bit more time doing this reflection. So, my next question for you is if we think back to that Jacinda Ardern quote, she talks about leading, don't be afraid to be at the fore. What could leading look like for you? That's my next question. What could leading look like for you? So, what have we got? I'd love you as well to, as well as sharing your reflections, we can be a bit meta about it as well and like share what you're noticing about your responses. What are you experiencing in this moment as I ask you these questions? We've got what could leading look like? Leading a quiet revolution. Yes. Or maybe even a really loud one. Not being afraid to say I need to make changes, not afraid to voice opinions, protect the core activity of the subject. Um, Develop an award. Yes, so there's some practical stuff here around leading, dispelling stereotypes, do your own artwork. Yes. Um, Brilliant. Feeling so Joe says, I'm feeling a passion for this subject. Why don't others feel this? Yeah, it's quite, I feel like that about coaching. Like, why does everyone not think that this is the most amazing thing? Um, Creating time and space and inspiration to teachers to flourish and re-engage with their artistic selves, their artist selves, sorry. Yeah. Um, Lovely. So I've got another Jacinda quote. I'm a bit obsessed with her at the moment. And she says, you can be anxious, sensitive, kind, and wear your heart on your sleeve. You can be a mother or not. You can be an ex-Mormon or not. You can be all of these things. And not only can you be here, you can lead. Just don't ever discount who you are or what you bring to the table. Just don't ever discount who you are or what you bring to the table. I've just noticed a comment in the chat from Jasmine, noticing you're getting very distracted by other people's ideas and having imaginary conversations with everyone. So I'd love to invite you to know, what does that say? Like, what is that telling you? That kind of wanting to have those conversations and looking at what other people are saying. So yes, so back to Jacinda. She says, this is when she left Parliament. Just don't ever discount who you are or what you bring to the table. So I want you to just hold that in your mind for the next exercise because I'm going to ask you for a second to fly into the future. So I would love you to put your pens down. Move your hands away from the keyboard, even if you want to say some more stuff. And if it feels safe for you to do so, close your eyes. I'm just going to do a quick visualization. So I'm taking you somewhere. I am taking you to your retirement party. Welcome, welcome to your retirement party. For some of you, that might be very far in the future. For some of you, that might be a bit closer, does not matter. I want you to imagine, close your eyes and imagine that you're there and it feels really exciting. You feel confident, you feel proud, you feel like you have really contributed, you have made a difference, you have put your subject at the centre of the school. You are holding a glass of your favourite drink in your hand. You're surrounded by people you respect and admire and who respect and admire you. Just just spend some time there for a minute. It might be in a school hall or the FE college hall. Uh, you might have been taken to a fancy five-star hotel because, you know, in the future the education budget has really increased, wherever you want to be. But just get that sense of feeling that you're there and you're proud of what you have achieved. And just take that moment. Hopefully there's a little smile happening. And then when you're ready, I'm bringing you back for a sec. Open your eyes and you're going to answer these questions. So imagine you're giving a speech. What are you saying in your speech? I want you to write this speech out. And you're going to talk about things like, what have you stood for? What kind of educator have you been? What has changed because of you? And what piece of advice would you give future educators? I'm in a second, I'm going to shut up so you can do this exercise. But I've got a couple of things. Full bragging rights here. You know what I said earlier? No modesty. We want to get rid of that, right? You have absolutely made a difference. And you are confident about that. You are talking about that. What are the things that you really, really want to be able to say that you did? How did you lead? How did you influence? Um, so I'm going to give you 5 minutes to write that speech. I will zip it. If you feel a bit stuck, you're not sure, or you get to an end of a question, you can ask yourself, what else? What else did I stand for? What else changed because of me? What other pieces of advice would I give? Mm. I've just seen a comment. I don't know your first name. Um, he's just written, I just made me a bit emotional, Karen, because it's happening at the end of term. Just take this minute to, whew, yeah, feel that. Think about all those things that you can say about what you've done. You've got a couple of minutes on this, so you can flesh it out a bit. You could add a terrible joke at the beginning, add a quote that's always stayed with you. Mm. Yeah, that's a big piece, Lauren, about feeling like you're working against your values. That can be exhausting. So I would perhaps invite you to think about where where you can lean into the values that you care about more, um, if possible. There are maybe more moments of that alignment than it feels like. Um, and that's why, again, why reflection can be so important. But we also have to think about what we're willing to tolerate as well. So if you feel like you've finished that, um, then love to know or to invite you to put in the chat, not necessarily what you've put in your retirement letter, your speech, sorry, although you can do, but what you notice about what you've written and how was that exercise for you. If you're still writing, you've got time. Mm. So Judith, I notice I'm not focusing on art, craft, or design, but on pupil development as a human being, not academic process. Mm. So we're quite formal and corporate, unfortunately. I wonder how you could change that exercise to help it feel less like that. I'm making an assumption that you would prefer it not to be quite formal and corporate. Mm. There's some lovely, lovely stuff coming up in chat. So there's some kind of power, let us storm the gates. There's some stuff about being quiet and kind and being the best version of yourself. What you stand for, fairness and equity, enabling everyone to access arts and creativity. Yeah. Can be quite hard to do this kind of exercise, um, especially if we're feeling, tired and exhausted, which is why I invited you to kind of put aside the realistic stuff for the minute and just think about what you would really love to be able to say, because that will tell you something. Um, Reflection has highlighted just how ambitious my ideas are for change. Lovely. Stand for the dogs with bad names. Yes, yeah. You don't have a job to retire to, you're freelance. Yeah. Well, we could have a joint retirement party, you and I, and we could get all the freelancers together and support you. Okay, how are we doing for time? If you feel like you've had enough on that, and just so I can check in that I'm not going too fast, then I'd love you to write done in the chat. Of course, it's never done. I'd love you to keep thinking about this, but for the purposes of this exercise, and once we've got a few of those, we'll move on. Done for now. Yeah. All that advice that you're giving those future educators, just take a moment to look at it for yourself. Maybe take on that advice. Okay, feels like we're ready to move on. Thank you for doing that. So, I've taken you back to noticing what matters to you, what in the past has mattered to you. We've talked about hope, we've talked about despair. I have moved you forward thinking about the kind of an ending of some sort and thinking about what you want to say. So let's get back into well, we're not going to be in the present just yet. We're going to go from vision to action. Um, so to get closer to that vision, these ideas that you have, what you want to be able to say, where do you want to be in 2 years? Now, for those of you who are finding that the timescales are a bit wonky, make this work for you. So you can change the 2 years to 6 months, but just be thinking about what is it I need to be doing in a future time that means that I meet that vision. Um, Yeah, Lydia, you found it a hard exercise. You have retired and you had that moment. I wonder what you would say if you could go back. Is there anything you would say differently, or do differently? Yeah, new context brings freshness and a new energy. Ooh, yeah, how do you hold on to that? So, to get closer to that vision, where do you want to be in 2 years? What do you want to be doing? What does that mean? What does the day look like? Who are you influencing? What are you leading? Who are you leading? Okay, next question. So, if that's where you need to be in 2 years, what does that mean for the next 6 months? What needs to be in motion in the next 6 months? Mhm. Yeah, so there's some thinking of like, I don't know. Always dealt with the now and not really thought beyond the What's SOW? I don't think I know what that means. For the following year. This is
Scheme
true.
of work. Scheme of work, Sarah.
Scheme of work, of course.
Dow.
There's so many acronyms in education.
We are devils for it.
So many. Um, it's a good job as a coach. I don't really need to know what a lot of those acronyms mean. Um, Yeah, it is tricky. This stuff is tricky. And also we're trying to do it in a really short space of time. So, goes back to that thing I said, don't worry about the I don't knows. That's okay. Be kind to yourself. And this might just take some time to percolate. So you might not know now, but it might come to you at some point. Um, okay, so what needs to be in motion in the next 6 months? The next question then, we're thinking, okay, if I this is the end, the retirement party. So this means in 2 years, I need to be here. And that means that in 6 months, this needs to be happening. So can anyone guess what my next question will be? So what might I do this week, even if it's tiny, to move towards that? And I'd love you to write that in the chat. So what might you do this week, even if it's something small, to move towards that? So someone said you'd like to be faster at the paperwork. So what might you do this week that could help you to do that? Talk about this conference. Yes, Joe. Yes, brilliant. Overview of a curriculum to plan. Sarah, prioritize well-being. So yeah, you don't need to share this with us, but what does that mean? What kind of prioritizing is that? What kind of well-being is that? You can dig a little bit deeper. Write a draft scheme of work. See, I've remembered now. I do remember from my further education days. Oh, someone saying that they have started by only accessing email twice a day. Hmm. Yes. And I would always suggest don't do email. Well, I mean, it depends on the organization you're in, but if you can not do email first thing, because that means your agenda, your day is hijacked by what other people want from you. Say thank you to your art colleagues. Lovely. Um, One question, thinking about this, is whose support do I need? Who can help you? And I'm sure there might be some members on of NSAD who will have some suggestions here of how they can help. So whose support do you need and who can help you? I think in the conversation between Christopher and Michelle earlier, if you saw it, there was a sense that we just can't do this on our own, but we can ask for help. Oh, Judith, hide in the basement radio room, one free period per week when no one can find you. Oh, yeah. And what does that tell you? That is that craving some space, just some sort of thinking time. What is that telling you? Find collaborators. Yeah, who are the people in your schools and your organizations? If you're freelance, who are the networks that you can join and be part of? Um, okay, yeah. So recognizing that your ADHD, too much visual stimulation. So for your own well-being, yeah, to hide in the basement. Um, Stop trying to be perfect. So I would invite you, if you're so Degnan, stop trying to be perfect. What does that look like? So what behavior is that stopping trying to be perfect? Is it spending less time on planning? What does it actually look like? The more detailed you can get, and if you write it down, the evidence says if we write it down, we're more likely to do it. Um, Write it down, say when you're going to do it, this thing, and think about whose support you need. Okay, so we've got about 5 minutes left. Perfectionism kills progress. Yeah, it really does. Have more fun. Stop being so serious. Yeah, I definitely feel like I might write that on a post-it note. Um, okay, so the final question, and then I've got one more quote for you because I am a lover of quotes. Final question, which I'd love to invite you to put into the chat, is what's one insight or commitment that you're taking away from this session? What's one insight or commitment you're taking away from this session? Jennifer says, I need to prioritize going to look at art as not as a luxury, but a necessity. I haven't been for nearly a year. Yeah, who can you go with? Who could you book that that time with? I know one step at a time. Nicholas, I ought to be more of an artist and not being such a teacher. Yeah, what does that look like, Nicholas? What would that look like? What would the change in behaviour that other people would see? Department outing? Not to apologise for being you. Absolutely. Yeah, not discounting yourself. That Jacinda quote, we are all needed. We are all needed in this. All our different perspectives, our experiences. That's how change happens. What's that quote? I can't remember quotes, but I'm good at putting them on slides. But that Margaret Mead, I think it was attributed to her about what the change that a group of people can do. If anyone knows that quote, put it in the chat. But yeah, if we work together. Project I've wanted to get off the ground keeps getting bumped down the job list. I'm going to move it to the top. Yes, when are you going to do that? Give yourself time to ask questions. Prioritize on my MA in education. Yes, what does that look like? You're going to do it now. Yeah, brilliant. Anything else that you're taking away, that you're committing to? Eat in the staff room. Art for all. Students deserve compulsory art sessions in the same way that they have to do PE. Yes, Judith. So, how do you get to the fore of that? How do you get to the front of that and lead and influence that? Maybe with other people, but what might that look like? Take it in steps, small steps. Be kind to yourself. Yeah, again, what does be kind to yourself look like? What is that behavior that you would see if you were being kind to yourself? Avoid being drawn into other people's needs. So maybe a few saying no's, saying no, I can't do that. Um, I do have actually, I could share this. I don't know how I would, but I can. I've got a document that helps people to think about how to say no, and reflect on why we might not be able to say no, if that's helpful. Um, Lovely. Thank you. Okay, so my final quote, and I use this a lot. If anyone's read 4,000 Weeks by Oliver Burkeman, you would recognize this. If you haven't, I would absolutely recommend you go and you buy it now because it's brilliant. But he says, you begin to grasp that when there's too much to do, and there always will be, the only route to psychological freedom is to let go of the limit denying fantasy of getting it all done and instead focus on doing a few things that count. Thank you, everybody. I really hope that's been helpful. If you would like, you can do a quick plug here. Come and find me. I'm mostly on LinkedIn, Sarah Fox Coach, but you can also listen to my podcast as well. and I interview lots of different people on this idea of how do we do good and look after ourselves in the process. So thank you very much.
Oh, Sarah,
That was
thank
a
you.
whistle stop tour.
That was one. Right. I have to say, there is a bit of a tradition at NSEAD conferences of presenters crying, and we haven't had one yet. And you didn't do it. Thought you were a little bit moist-eyed after Chris's presentation, but I've got to tell you, I'm holding it back. And I know loads of people are the delegates. It's a time of year in education, as you know, having been a teacher, where everyone's kind of spent
Mhm.
12 months giving everything. And we can start to feel a bit tired and emotional at this point at the best of times. But this opportunity to stop, slow down, and reflect has been priceless. You took us to hope and despair. You gave us full bragging rights, which believe me, these people need to use that because they're amazing and they don't brag enough about what they do, the good work they do. Um, and you gave us a promise of a document of how to say no, which just got a kind of rash of oh my goodness yes in the chat. And I think at one point you actually incited a noisy revolution. So it's going to be on you if that indeed happens.
I hope
But
so.
I do see our membership as the Trojans inside the horse. You know, they are quietly turning it upside down every single day. But there is such an eagerness to do more, but often at great cost. So some of the things you've got us to do there, I'm definitely going to take away. I feel like I need more. I'm sure people feel like they need more. It's not enough. It's not enough. An hour at the end of term. We've got to think about this. And I was thinking about that retirement party. What would it look like? And I thought, well, I would have to have it on the beach. Um,
Yeah.
Firstly, so that you would be there,
Do that.
you'd be there, and also because I'd have to fit in. If I'm going to bring everybody I admire and respect from my professional life, it's all these thousands of amazing NSCAD members. So I'd need a beach to put them all on, and probably helicopters and bribes to get them there. But yeah, that's me envisaging my retirement.
Michelle,
Along,
can I ask you a question?
please.
What's your one thing you're doing this week then?
I'm going to go and sit in somebody's garden with some really lovely people and reflect on what we did today.
Amazing. That
Yeah,
sounds
that's going to happen. And also, yeah, on what lots of people said, how important it is to just connect with each other because I realize that that's what makes me tick every single day. So, yeah. But yeah, a drink in a lovely garden with some lovely people and some reflections. So I'm going to kind of close us off now with big thanks to you and Chris in this session. It's been quite amazing. You've given us permission and space to come as we are, which was the phrase that Chris used. And yeah, we can all just perhaps keep on doing that. This is the end of session 2, thinking about